Okay, my name is Howard Ebert. I am an alcoholic. And before Kathy starts um, reading and talking about what we're reading this evening, I want to just do a little bit of review. We are in More About Alcoholism, a chapter that Joe and Charlie point out is about really one thing, the insanity that precedes the first drink. I like to think it's about two things, which is the insanity that precedes the first drink and the failure of self-will, which are very much the same thing. And so he begins the chapter by giving us certain words that basically mean the same thing: belief in a lie, delusion, illusion, insanity, and obsession. And where we are today is we were about to get to the first story. Bill tells us four stories in More About Alcoholism as a way to demonstrate crossing from sane, recognizing and making decisions based on truth, and crossing over into making a decision based on a lie. And the lie is that this time will be different. Whatever words we use, whatever rationalization we use, it all boils down to belief in a lie, that I don't have this allergy, that this time it'll be different. And in doing so, Rob, if you can give me that diagram first, just to give an overview of the chapter. I think it's 310 is the number on it. And if anyone wants copies of any of these screen shares that we put up, just drop a line to us at thebigbookstudy@aol.com. It's right here, thebigbookstudy@aol.com. I'm sure Rob will put it in the chat. And ask for the handouts from the More About Alcoholism chapter. But this is an overview. These are the four stories we're going to be talking about: the man of 30, Jim the car salesman, the jaywalker, and Fred the accountant. And we're about to begin the man of 30. And we're going to see that his lie, his delusion, is that the long period of sobriety and self-discipline qualifies him to drink as other men, that he had gone a period of time without drinking after realizing he was an alcoholic. And what happened? He resumed his drinking. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle, and he had drank himself to death within 4 years. Now, that's the first story we're going to get to. We're going to get to Jim and Jay Walker and Fred in a moment. But what I wanted to do is kind of just introduce you, give you some background into who we're talking about. The man of 30 is very much believed to be based on the writings of this fellow. Rob, if you'll give me the Peabody bio, that's the first one. Richard Peabody was a lay therapist. He wrote a book called The Common Sense of Drinking, which looks like that. We'll show you the cover in a moment, which probably was one of the best well-known books about alcoholism before the big book. And there's a lot of stuff in this book that may seem familiar to you if you're familiar with the big book. When Bill is being accused of plagiarizing, this is one of the examples that they use, is how he liberally adopted stuff from Richard Peabody. Who cares? Doesn't matter to me. I think Bill used it better than Peabody did, and Peabody died drunk. Well, he relapsed. The chances are he died drunk, but that's why we don't know that much and follow that book that well. But much of the language and the descriptions used in our book can be traced to the common sense of drinking. And I'll give you some examples when we go through the chapter. I'll point it out. Let's go to, if you would, Rob, 32:2, the cover of Common Sense. That next one to the left. There we go. That's what the book looks like, at least the copy that I have. The Common Sense of Drinking by Richard Peabody. I would really strongly suggest you pick it up and read it. It is an excellent book. It's fascinating, but some things in it are going to be familiar. Let's go to the next one. For example, he explains a typical case on page 31 of this book, that a man, after 36 years of living and approximately 16 of drinking, has definitely proved to his own conviction that he cannot use alcohol without abusing it, and that his own efforts, he is equally powerless to stop his indulgence. And we're going to see from the man of 30 that he recognized that once he started drinking, he could not stop. So he had to stop for a period of time till he could make the money that he wanted and then resume drinking. But he recognized he was powerless over his condition. There's a reference to that. If we go on to the next page, and this is all from um, more about from the common sense of drinking. If you could see at the top of the page, there's a use of a term called once a drunkard, always a drunkard. Now, in the early 30s, they weren't using the word alcoholic as much. They were using the word drunkard. So once a drunkard, always a drunkard. By the time it got to Bill's book, Bill wrote once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Um, if we follow what it says on this book, of course, a man has had long periods of abstinence may on a few occasions be able to manage things pretty well when he resumes drinking, but sooner or later, he will crash harder than ever. Does that not sound like what it says in our book? Continuing, one of the reasons this may make it difficult for an inebriate to reform permanently is an idealization of the past, which he futilely believes he can revive, a belief often unexpressed with which he fools himself over and over again. This time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to beat the game. Does that sound familiar? Let's go to the next page, if you would. In the middle of the page, there's an interesting expression. He says, halfway measures are of no avail. Now, in some of the editions of this book, that's italicized. In the copy I have here, it's not. Doesn't make a difference. But it sounds very much like half measures availed us nothing. Okay. And do we have another page there, Rob? I think you do. Here's the reference to the man of 30. Some years ago, there lived a man who decided to give up drinking until he could make $1 million, at which time he intended to drink in moderation. It took him 5 years of sobriety to make the million. Then he began his quote, moderate drinking. In 2 or 3 years, he lost all the money, and in another three, he died of alcoholism. Now, see if that doesn't describe the man of 30. If you're familiar with the man of 30 story, you know what I'm talking about. If you're just now being introduced to it, keep this in mind. It's about a guy who realized that he couldn't drink and make the $1 million that he wanted to make. So he stopped drinking till he made the $1 million and then resumed. This was a guy who intended to go back to drinking. He wasn't looking to quit permanently. He was looking to make his million, then become this moderate drinker. And he made the million, and he started, out came the bottle and the bed slippers, and he drank himself to death within a few years. See if that doesn't seem like this paragraph. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, who can begin.
Um, Thanks for the recap at the start. My name is Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. Good to see y'all. We did have to pick up at 32, paragraph 1, just at the end, or at the beginning, sorry, and the end of 32, the top of 32. So I'm just going to do that first before we get into the man of 30. So begins with, it will not take long for you to decide if you're honest with yourself about it. It may be a bad case of the jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. And what they're referring to here is the 4 tests, the one here on this page and the 3 at the bottom of 31. And I'll give you those 4 tests if you want to write them down. Because this is a self-diagnosis illness. I gotta be able to diagnose myself, concede to myself that I'm a real alcoholic. So the first one we looked at was in the middle of 31, but it's drink like a gentleman, drink like a lady. The second one was step over to the nearest bar room, try some controlled drinking. The third test was try to drink and stop abruptly. And the fourth one is the top of page 32. The rest of them, like I said, can be found on 31. It says try it more than once. So there are 4 tests if we're in doubt. And it tells us it will not take you long for you to decide if you're honest about yourself. And that's a condition. I got to be honest with myself. But honestly, the alcohol had just stopped working and it had beat me into a state of oblivion. It had beat me into a state of reasonableness that I, for some reason, was able to see the truth. And it says it may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. And there's that word career, like we know what a career is. Usually we go to school, we study, we get a degree or whatever the case may be, and we go on and we have the job of our dreams or the job we want, and we enjoy it. It pays great, it is benefits and all the rest. Well, our drinking career didn't give us any benefits. All it did was take everything from us and take us to the point of incomprehensible demoralization, the gates of insanity. And for those that are here tonight, not death. Thank you, God. Um, but it talks about how we could have stopped drinking. And like I have a little note beside mine here, and it says, I had no reason to stop. Now, people around me might have thought that, maybe, but I didn't think I had any reason to stop. And it says, but the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. Again, like what my kind of thought around that would have been, why should I? Why should I stop? Like it's given me what I want, which is it's given me fun. It's fun. And I did not know it, but it was actually using it to function. I didn't know that, I don't even know what this kind of like this functioning alcoholic, and it's really just a lie. It's a mirage I put on when, I'm in it. But basically I look at the functioning stage as, I'm drinking because I like the way it makes me feel. Like what else? Um did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else would you do at the weekend? Like who like goes to movies? No, you go out, you get wasted, you get high. Like that's what you do. And that's what I thought everyone did. Like I thought that if people that didn't do it, that they were weirdos. Like
Right.
that was my mentality. And it says we've heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period of time because of an overwhelming desire to do so. Here's one, and I love this. It's going to give us and like Harrod read out about the man of 30 from the Richard Peabody book. Like he doesn't just say, here you go. He's going to give us a real example, a real lesson for us to look at here. And it begins with, so a man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after bouts and quiet himself with more liquor. So I can relate to that. I did these binge drinking. He's doing spree drinking. Nervous in the morning. I think of that, untreated alcoholism, or as I would call it, my default state, which is restless, irritable, and discontented. I'm anxious, I'm bored, I'm agitated, I'm dissatisfied. Um, and he quieted himself with more liquor, like the hair of the dog, as we would have called it. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. And so, what did he do? Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. So the truth is that once he started, he had no control whatever. That is the truth because of the physical allergy in his body. But look what he did. He made up his mind. So again, we have our mind. Our mind's not all bad. We have our brain. It's where we think. But there's a part of us that's like alcoholic thinking if we don't do this work. That I'm just separating this because not all my mind is a bad neighborhood. But if I don't treat this alcoholism, it sure is. It sure is. But where I've lost my train of thought. Yes, he made up his mind, so he used his own willpower. He made this decision that he was going to stop drinking because he knew he was getting, terrible outcome, terrible consequences, um, until he'd been successful in business. So he had this willpower, he had this self-determination. And it goes on to say, he would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. And like, I'm just going to drop a wee comment there, but like, I don't know if I'd want to be anywhere near this dude, like, because bear in mind, he didn't drink and he had the self will, the determination to go, right, that's it. I'm stopping till I'm a millionaire or whatever the case may be, till I retire. So clearly he's still some willpower left, but let's not forget that this disease is progressive whether we're drinking or not. So we're either going to treat this illness with a drink or a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening in God. Like, so his illness is progressing all along. He doesn't know this, but I would not want to be near him. But I also make the comment, and tell us, I says to Harren sponsor, he says, like, 25 years. Let's like, that is 25 years. I mean, that just baffles me.
Happy for who? Right? Couldn't have been very happy for the people around him, right?
But look at he followed through. He was able to make that commitment. Then he fell victim to a belief, which practically every alcoholic has, that this period of long sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. And this is not something new we're coming across. This statement, we have, the types of alcoholics in the doctor's opinion, and it talks about the type that thinks that they're entirely free from alcohol can drink after a period of time. And this is pretty much kind of what they're saying, that he fell victim, and a victim has no choice. Remember that a victim doesn't have choice, and belief comes from our mind, which is the mental obsession. So he has no choice in this matter, this mental obsession. And it says, which practically every alcoholic has. And I had it because I continued to go out and go out and go out, and had the insanity of the first drinking and picking it up stone cold sober. That because I was sober for X amount of time, it won't be that bad. Or like here, my self-discipline qualifies me to drink like other men. Whatever the lie is, fill it in. So what did he do? I came in a bottle. So again, he's convinced himself also that he's outgrown his alcoholism. Like he's outgrown it. He just put the cork in the bottle. That's it. That's where it ends. I just put down the drink and it ends there. And he's delusional. So he made the he made the decision and he took the action. This is what we're going to see. I came as carpet slippers in a bottle. In 2 months, he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. Like 2 months. He didn't even get a year out of drinking. Like he went down like a bag of SH1T, basically. And this just, like, for me, looking at this, just really speaks to progression, even without a drink. And he talks about he tried to regulate his drinking for a while while making several trips to the hospital in the meantime. So regulate means to control, right? And like that was the great delusion, the great obsession of mine as an alcoholic, as of every abnormal drinker, that what I could somehow someday control and enjoy my drinking. Two things in the one sentence. Never happened, but it was an obsession, it was a lie, and I pursued it to the gates of insanity. So he got 2 months and he tried to control his drinking for a while, regulated, making several trips to the hospital meantime. And I was working with a sponsor the other day, and this is a life and death matter, this illness. But we were kind of I was looking at this and I was like, he's not doing a very good job regulating his drinking if he's going to the hospital multiple times. That's not control. That's not regulating. And it says, then gathering all his forces. So he's gathering all his willpower now. He attempted to stop altogether and find he could not. And he's drinking against his will. And my experience has been, this is the hardest part of my illness, was drinking against my will. When I came to the point of, I actually can't stop, and I know it in my heart, not because I'm going to lose anything, but actually everything I've tried has failed, and I want to get well, and I can't stop going and sitting on the high chair after work in order and whatever. And I just desperately want to be sober, and I just can't make it to an AA meeting. Like, I know what that feels like, and it's through divine intervention. I believe I'm here, that we're all here. Howard, do you want to share?
Well, just to kind of go through what Kathy mentioned here. In the first paragraph, he mentions the truth. The truth is mentioned where he says, once he started, he had no control whatsoever, that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. That's the truth. So he recognizes the truth, makes a decision. And then a few lines later, he runs smack into the lie. When we make decisions based on a lie and we run into the truth, and we inevitably will, our life turns into a living hell. And that's what happened to this guy. He made a decision initially based on the truth. He realized he couldn't drink. But then he fell victim to the belief, which practically every alcoholic has, and here's the lie, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. As Kathy mentioned, that's the delusion. Delusion is convincing ourselves of something that's not true. He knows the truth. He makes a decision based on a lie, and he runs smack into the truth.
I have to say something about that. Sorry. I don't know if he knows the truth. We know
Right.
the truth. It's delusional.
Correct. Correct. So he winds up being hospitalized, puzzled, and humiliated, which is another way of saying incomprehensible demoralization. But once it's in him, it's in him. He saw that he availed himself of everything money could buy, human power. He tried all kinds of human power, and every attempt failed. Why? Because he's beyond human aid. And he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. Jails, institutions, and death. So let me just kind of repeat one point here. He made a decision based on a lie that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline qualified him to drink as other men. That's the lie. Based on the truth, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. So what killed the man? The truth or the lie? It's the truth. The truth killed him because he cannot start drinking like normal men. The lie is that he could. So he made a decision based on the lie, ran into the truth, and the truth killed him.
Yeah. Thanks, Harry. So we're just going to read it. I know you've just went over it. It says every means of solving this problem which money could buy at his disposal, page 33, the top. Every attempt failed. The more robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. And again, like you spoke about that hard, but I really, really sincerely believe it's because of the progression. It's progressing in us, whether we're drinking, whether I'm treating my illness with a spiritual solution and this power, or I'm treating it with a drink or something else, whatever. I have whatever the thing is, I have no choice over.
Yeah. And it's also, he's 25 years older.
Right, that's what I'm speaking about. The body and the mind have aged, and the disease has progressed in him. And yeah, it's a silent killer, silent and patient and deadly. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remain sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. And it's given us a lesson. It's not just, like, let's fill up the page on 32 and write about the story of this man at 30. It's like, I feel like Bill's like, hey, listen up, you guys, right? That this is a lesson to think that if you're going to remain sober for a long period of time and think that you can drink normally, you need to smash that. Like, you need to, like, that's not how this deal works, right? Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. And that is the lie, that if I'm sober for a long time, I could drink normally. I could have one drink, whatever the case may be, or I could use, normally. Okay, so, but here is a man who had 55 years found he was just where he left off at 30. He was just, we hear these things, I picked up where I left off, and it's like, no, I picked up where I left off by 1,000. That's what it feels like, because spiritually I'm so much sicker, and like, because it's a progressive disease, this is my experience, my mind got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. So we have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. I just spoiled it. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. So that's the truth. They're telling us the truth here. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always, and I've circled always an alcoholic. So I'm a cucumber, I'll never be a pickle. I know there's a whole thing about pickles, and I have no idea what that is, like how that marinates. I don't know, but I am who I am. I'm an alcoholic. I don't need to like it. I don't need to approve of it. I just need to do the work. I need to be willing. That's where it starts. Um, Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. And that's a promise. That's the truth. It's a grim promise. It's a warning. But again, it's banging home to us that if I think I can drink after a long period of sobriety, I'm in a bad way very quickly because it's progressive. Hard.
Um, did you finish the paragraph?
No.
Or you want to do that? Go ahead.
Okay. If we're planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind or any lurking notion that someday we will be, excuse me, immune to alcohol. So again, remember back, like when this book was sent out, they didn't have AA meetings, they didn't have sponsors, they had people writing to, I was going to call it head office, but in New York, like, you know, my so and so has a problem maybe with drinking, I want to help them, so they send them a book for them, or maybe they're the person related to the drinker and they need the help, whatever the case may be. They're getting their instruction manual
Mhm.
how to get well. They're not like I said, they don't have sponsors, they don't have meetings like us today. So it's telling them very clearly, like it's telling us, that if you want to stop, you better not think or have this secret idea or any conditions on your sobriety that maybe somehow, someday, I'll be protected from alcohol, right? That I could have a glass of champagne. This was my delusion at my wedding. I hadn't even met Harriet at this stage. That had to be smashed. And that's what it's saying, to stop drinking. I could always stop, but I could never stay stopped, right? So I must have no reservation, no limitations, no conditions, no little kind of secret idea in my mind that one day when the kids go to college, I'll, sit back and relax and have a mimosa or whatever the case may be. And I'll be able to drink safely. I'll be able to be protected. That's what immunity means. I'm never going to be immune to alcohol and I can never safely drink hard.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, the quote from the Common Sense of Drinking, once a drunkard, always a drunkard. Well, again, that expression, drunkard, was popular in the mid 30s, and the word alcoholic was just coming into our vernacular. So when Walker wrote the book, he used the common word, drunkard. When Bill wrote this book, he took Peabody's expression and just updated it. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Now, does that mean that I'm always going to be what we find out in our inventory, that I'm frightened, irresponsible, inconsiderate, dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, and judgmental? Those were the defects of character that led me to make decisions based on lies, that put me in conflict with everybody and everything, that caused those people to, when I stepped on their toes, retaliate, push back, and I wound up getting angry, fearful, acting in a harmful manner, being resentful, and picking up a drink because that's what I do when I'm resentful. I'm not going to be those things all the time. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic means that I will always have the one thing that distinguishes me from any other person who consumes alcohol. And what is that? The allergy, the allergic reaction. Again, we defined allergy as an abnormal reaction. The normal reaction, some point, say no for whatever reason. I'm going to get sick. I've had enough. I got to drive, whatever. That's a normal reaction. We have an abnormal reaction. That will always be with us. So once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. As Kathy said, once a pickle, never a cucumber. We could never go back. And the truth is just that. The commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in short time as bad as ever. Going back a few lines, I skipped it. He said, but the man who at 55 found he was just where he left off at 30. Think about that for a minute. Could you, at the age of 55, do something that you did when you were 30 and hadn't done since then? Even in my worst periods of my addiction, I used to run a lot. I'd go out running, doing just for exercise. I don't know. I liked it, cleared my head, got the blood flowing, but I did a lot of running. I stopped in my early 30s. If I'd have started to run the way that I was running when I was 30, when I was 55, I'd have given myself a heart attack because my system isn't used to it. And that's the same thing with us alcoholics. That, as Kathy mentioned, the disease is progressive. It runs alongside us whether we're drinking or not. So when we pick up as if we never left off. Our body reacts as if it's been drinking those, in his case, 25 years. When I had my first relapse, I had been sober for 10 years, and my body reacted as if I'd been using every one of the days of the 10 years that I wasn't. Plus, I was 10 years older, and my body's assimilation of alcohol was not the same. At 55, it's not what it was at 30. And that's something we don't always talk about, is the age factor in progression. We talk about the progression as if that's all there is to it. What about the body's reaction? Our body can't handle it anymore. And then the paragraph ends with, there must be no reservation of any kind. Well, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, reservation is just something we tell ourselves that at some point in the future, if this happens, as Kathy mentioned, if I get married, I'll have to have that drink at the ceremony. It's some reservation, like you call ahead to a restaurant. We want to make a reservation for a certain time at a certain table. So when you get there at that time, you have the table. Well, that's what a reservation is. But I found another interesting definition of reservation. And you may want to note this because it really plays into our use of the word. Reservation, a definition of reservation is holding back on something due to doubt or suspicion. When someone has a reservation, they are holding back on something due to doubt or suspicion. I'm holding back on admitting I'm powerless and I can never pick it up again because I doubt it. That if I have to make this speech, if I have to get married, whatever it is, I'll be able to handle that. That's the lie. I've got a doubt, I've got a suspicion, and I'm holding on to it. That's what reservation is.
Thank
Okay?
you. Brilliant definition. So again, we are beginning here now. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop as he did on their own willpower. And if I had read that when I was told to come to Alcoholics Anonymous at 21 because my sister dated me here, like I would have been like, see, I don't mind if I drink in 25 years, right? Like, yeah, sorry. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but I would have thought I could do it myself, is what I'm saying. We doubt if many of them can do it because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find that he can win out. And I love this paragraph. This sentence. So I didn't really want to stop. What does really want to stop mean, by the way? And even if I did, I wouldn't be able to because of this mental twist. And I like to think of it as like a race. Like I think it's Paige that does the motorbikes. It's so funny. But like I'm already sober and there's this other, so I have the peculiar mental twist, and then I have this sound. Am I doing this right?
It meant was any allergy.
Hmm? No, I'm not. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um, so I didn't want to stop. And this peculiar mental twist was the insanity which precedes the first drink. I already had it. I didn't know I had it. I did not know I had it. Like my brain, like I think it was Howard that says it, like is a sick mind can't heal a sick mind. Like my mind doesn't know
Hmm.
that it's in deep doo doo. My mind that I think is trying to keep me alive is killing me. Several are cried men of 30 or less have been drinking only a few years, but they find themselves as helpless as those who have been drinking 20 years. So to be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time or take the quantities most of us had. Like, and I just circled it, like maybe it's a play on words, but I don't think he uses like whatever words. I think he thought very carefully about the words he used for this book. And gravely to me means a death threat. So it's telling me like again, and we're gonna see it and the words of the book will, state it beautifully better than me. But it again, it's not about the length of time that I drink or how much I drink. It's not about that. And when I came to the rooms, I didn't hear the description of this illness. So I had identified with consequences. I was hearing about what happened when people drank, i.e., what they lost. I didn't hear about this physical allergy and this mental obsession. I didn't know what that was. So again, it doesn't have to be, it's not about the length of time we drink nor about how much we drink. It's about our relationship with alcohol. And we're going to read more. Do I have any power? Do I have any choice and having any control? And if I don't have one of them, I don't have none of them. So if I don't have any willpower to say no, I do not have a choice. I'm going to pick up. I can't make a choice and I don't have a control because it's in my body and set off the phenomenon of craving. And it says this is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing or gone beyond, we call it in a few years. And like, people, I used to hear things, oh, women go, this is what I used to hear, women go down quicker than men and all this kind of nonsense. And I was like, what's that about? Like, and then I read this and I'm like, well, maybe there's some truth in it. Um, that we have a shorter history or whatever of drinking, because of our bodies. But the real thing being the allergy and the obsession. And Harry, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, it's Bill is accused of being misogynist when he makes statements like that, and I don't know that it's any more true when with women or with men, but that was the misconception, that women were different, right? Um, but I love the next sentence.
Okay, let's move on. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted, I've called alcoholics, are astonished at their inability to stop.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. Like if you told me that I was an alcoholic and I first came to rooms without me saying it first, I would have been so insulted. I mean, you would have got the eyes. I would have judged you. We ain't speaking anymore. Like that, I am not that. Because honestly, I didn't know what an alcoholic um was, but when I couldn't stop at the end and I was drinking against my will, I didn't really care what you called me. I just wanted help. Harry, do you want to comment on that?
Um, yeah, um, I joked about it. I joked on
Sorry, can I just interrupt? I know I hear people say that, but I was like, oh no,
right,
yeah.
right. But to be serious, I didn't know what that meant. I knew I drank and drugged differently than anybody else, and I just, I'm a friggin' addict. What can I tell you? I didn't know what it meant to be an alcoholic or an addict. I did not know about the allergy and the obsession. I needed to find out when I came in here why. Why can't I drink and drug like anybody else? And I had to really internalize the doctor's opinion. There is a solution and more about alcoholism to really understand why.
Yeah, like I think I'm not gonna go on a lamb, so I'll just continue. A good start on that. I just think the words we have to describe our illness are crucial.
Mhm.
Because that's the way we're supposed to talk about it to the new person, and sometimes you don't hear that. Anyway, we who are familiar with the symptoms, and what are the symptoms, the allergy of the body and the obsession of the mind, see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere. But try and get them to see it. Now, I have a little asterisk. I don't know if you guys have it, but it says true when this book was first published in 93, a membership survey showed that 1/5 of A's were 30 years and under. You couldn't have got me to see it until I seen it. You just couldn't have got me to see it until the next time. And then I wasn't an alcoholic, because that's the nature of the beast. Untreated, I'm going to drink. Howard, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I want to go back a couple of lines. Kathy mentioned it, and I think it needs to be re-mentioned. The end of the paragraph mentions about to be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time or take the quantities that we have. Uh, Kathy pointed it out that it's not about how much we drink. It's not about what we drink. It's not about the consequences of our drinking. It's not about how much or how long you've been drinking. It's about and it's not about the consequences. It's about one's relationship with alcohol in terms of, as
Power,
Kat,
choice, and control.
as Kathy mentioned, power, choice, and control. We don't have any of it. So it doesn't matter what you drank, how often you drank, the prices you paid, the consequence, none of that. What is your relationship to alcohol? Do you have any power, any choice, any control? That's what makes us alcoholics. Simple.
Yeah, it just makes me a little bit emotional when I talk about that, because I think of talking to a fellow about this recently, how, when we get here, we're so broken. We don't have a choice. We don't
Mhm.
have a choice.
Yeah.
We do not have a choice. We are going to drink, we are going to use. And, we do this work. And even if we don't do the work and we're dry and we're real alcoholic, we don't have a choice. We live on defects. But when we get well, we have choices. We can make decisions that aren't based on self. We can make, wise decisions, whatever the case may be. But it is torture. It's really, really sad. I have to move on, Howard, because I'm
Okay.
getting emotional. Sorry. Um, so it says, as we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our own power. And we have talked about, I believe, I hope we have anyway, the 3 stages of drinking. Um,
Mm.
and the stage 1 being the way it makes us feel. Stage 2 is we like how it makes us feel the way we liked, right? So did I get that right? I
Yeah, you
always
got it.
mix
We
this up.
drank for fun because we like the way it makes us feel.
Mhm.
Then we drank to function, which means we it makes us feel the way we like.
Right.
Exactly like you said it.
Right. So at this point, I am drinking because I like the way it makes me feel here when we're what I'm just read here. I'm in the second stage of function. And again, like I love that word function, like how functioning was I like, but I thought I was, you know. Um and being sober, and the more I go back and go into my drinking career, like to look at it, if I'm working with someone or if I'm doing like this new experience in step 1, I get to see that actually I was in a lot more doo-doo a lot sooner than I realized I was in doo-doo, if that makes sense. I there was, you know yeah, there was it wasn't just the last 3 years. It was way, way back further than that. Hard.
Um, yeah. Uh, why would I? That's what it comes down to. When he says we feel we got gone on drinking many years beyond where we could quit on our own willpower. At the point at which I can quit on my own willpower is when I was drinking for fun. So the question is, why would I do a stupid thing like stopping? Because you think I got a problem? Because my father thinks I got. No, I'm fine. I can stop anytime I want. So that's, I believe, what he means here is that once we get to the point where we realize, oh, I'm in deep, as Kathy says, doo-doo, that I'm doing this to function, there's no going back because I need it. Like a diabetic needs insulin. I convinced myself of the lie. My reality became I needed it to function. Like a diabetic needs insulin, I needed these chemicals to just be in everyday society, to get up, brush my teeth, go to work. So I can't do that without some primer.
Primer, yeah. We'll just finish out the paragraph and then we can stop. So if
Okay.
anyone questions whether he's entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. And so, guys, remember we mentioned the test, and Howard had referred to this last week. But I just mentioned the 4 things to do if we're not convinced or we don't think we're alcoholic, because again, it's self-diagnosis is back on page 31. Yes. It gives us 3. So the first one was drink like a gentleman or a lady, I'll say. Step over to the nearest bar room, try some control drinking. That's number 2. Number 3 is try to drink and stop abruptly. Number 4 is on the top of page 32. Try it more than once, because we could prove a point and do it once. We need to do it again. And here's the 5th one is leave liquor alone for a year and see what happens. My experience with that was I left it alone and I went to AA meetings, and I had like this other illness or whatever, but I was not an alcoholic. But I couldn't see the absurdity in going to AA meetings and needing AA meetings but not being an alcoholic. It just, and it wasn't like that at the end. I couldn't stay sober. I couldn't get through a day. Okay, so in the early days, sorry, if he is a real alcoholic, very far advanced, or a scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remain sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Again, it's progressive, progressive. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions. Most of them within a few weeks. So like I see this as also like a kind of like a warning, even though you may be able to stop for a period of time, you can still be yet an alcoholic. And when I came into the rooms, like I really did not know what an alcoholic was, so I couldn't really believe I was. I just told you I was because I thought you were going to kick me out. And and uh and I did not know that. Basically, I was trying to control my drinking in AA. That's what I was doing. And I got worse. And I used to always say I did my worst drinking in AA because I couldn't stay sober. But I was progressing. Everything was getting worse, like I said. Relapses, they weren't relapses, they were just continuations on of drinking, of picking up and picking up and picking up. And it says, we think too few to whom this book will appeal. So who is these whoms? Is this hopeless type, this type that's beyond psychological measures? We looked at that in the doctor's opinion. This one that's beyond human aid, us, the hopeless type. And again, it says some will be drunk day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. And I just put beside this, this is me, this happened to me. So just bear that in mind. If we think, well, we can stop, can we stay stopped forever? Party over? All right,
Well, as Kathy mentioned, the paragraph contains the 5th test. We had the 4 tests on page 31 and 32, and here's the 5th test. But there actually is a 6th test. It's not in the book. Marty Mann wrote about it in her book. And what her 6th test was, she said to take 2 drinks a day. So I get out my cup and I have 2 of these a day, and I'm not allowed to back up. Oh, he doesn't
you
mean
can't see it.
that she doesn't mean this size cup. Oh, okay. So I have to take a normal size cup. But even if I took 2 cups of these a day, I still wouldn't be able to just take the 2 and stop. Her suggestion was 2 drinks a day, normal sized drinks that you can't back up, meaning not have any for 5 days as if you could, and then have 10 on that 5th day. You have to have the 2 and stop. Then the next day, 2 and stop. That you can't do that for 30 days and then stop cold. If you're a real alcoholic, you wouldn't have made it anywhere near the 30th day, but you certainly wouldn't have made it 31 on 32 days without the drink. Those last few days would never have happened. So that's the 6th form.
But I still have an alcoholic mind. They'll be saying,
Yep.
imagine wouldn't work. Could you try it? It's like, how much in trouble do you need to be?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It just wants to take your life.
Yeah, but because I have an alcoholic mind, if I were to start the test, I'm starting with this 2 cups of that.
Yeah.
Okay, but 1 or 2 other points because we're running out of time. Kathy mentioned that we think few to whom this book will appeal. Who is the book appealing to? The drunks, the alcoholics of the hopeless variety, of the desperate variety, those who are drowning. That's who it's directed to, the people who are drowning. That's who we want to come to us with the desperation of drowning men. That's what this book is aimed at. And there's an interesting thing in the last sentence. He said, the day after making their resolution, they'll be drunk, many within weeks. Does that sound familiar? Remember back in the doctor's opinion, when he's describing the different types of alcoholics, one of the types he describes says, makes many a resolution, never a decision. And we talked about, well, what's the difference between a resolution and a decision? Action. A resolution is just words. A resolution is an empty promise. A resolution is an empty decision. A decision is a resolution followed by action. So we make many resolutions. I'm quitting. This is the end of it. Tomorrow will be well, maybe the day after. That's our resolution. Our decision is I'm stopping right now. I'm going into detox and I'm going to change. That's the difference between a resolution and a decision.
Yeah, I think of New Year's resolutions that people would ask. I'm just
Mhm.
embarrassed to say I don't do that because I know I can't stick to it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know what that is. Maybe you guys do, but I don't. I need God. Okay, that's
All
it.
right. Let me turn the recording off.